Hello, everyone. Good morning on the West Coast. Good afternoon on the East Coast. This is the official, unofficial 49ers Cardinals pregame show, Week 9. We're your host, Grant Cohn, Sibla Bakzaza. Sibla, great to see you.
Good to see you as well. Glad to be back.
Yes, glad to have you. Usually we do the Cohn phone on this day, but today it's me and Sibla. Sorry, Cohn phoners. We'll bring you back another time.
Just ask questions.
Just ask questions. So we're going to preview this game, but first we're going to take care of some business. Let me open up my phone real quick. Recognize my face. Okay, here we go. The 49ers gave, not the 49ers, but Javon Kinlaw had ACL reconstruction, which surprised me. I mean, he had knee tendonitis or arthritis or something, and now he had a full ACL reconstruction. So I want your analysis, but real quick, let me just read the joint statement from Dr. Tim McAdams and Dr. Neil Atrashi and the 49ers medical staff. I didn't pronounce that correctly. I'm sorry. 49ers defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw recently underwent successful surgery to repair his right knee. As persistent symptoms limited Javon's performance, we consulted with medical experts and determined that the best course of action was to perform surgery. Evaluation of the knee and surgery confirms suspicions that the ACL had chronic changes that would be best treated with ACL reconstruction. This procedure gives him the best opportunity to make a full recovery and return to playing football in 2022. What do you think?
I think it's a good statement, and actually it does not surprise me at all because the underlying issue of what they call knee tendonitis, when I heard that to begin with, to me it sounded it did not sound specific enough. To me, there was something else that was chronic, and now they are disclosing to us what exactly that was. So I think this was absolutely the necessary decision for his health and for his career. If they just keep playing him on a broken piece, basically his knee, eventually he would literally end up as a full-on draft bust. It would just ruin his career, ruin his confidence. So if we have any hope of salvaging him for his career here in San Francisco, then they had to shut him down, and they need to discover what was wrong with him. They did that, and to have a reconstructive surgery was the only option, and hopefully it goes really well, and more importantly, he takes his recovery very seriously. And then they can salvage the situation, hopefully.
It seems like the question now is, when did this injury happen? Was this from before the draft, or was this they keep mentioning that he injured himself in the Dallas game his rookie year toward the end, and that it was like a different injury to the same knee that was hurt to begin with. Is that what this is? Because I'm curious, like, is this something that they should have known before they drafted him, or is this something new? I guess I can ask that question and find out. One more thing,
That's a good question.
I'd like to know.
They are interlocked. Both conditions. Yeah,
right.
both issues are interchangeable. They're interlocked. Whenever you build muscle, you strengthen your joints, things like that. If you are weak in one area, you do not strengthen the other without engaging with that area. So even if they were separate issues, they absolutely do contribute to each other. It's like playing on a weak gear. Essentially, it's eventually going to snap. So even if you break something else, or you rupture something else, or you have another fissure or something like that, if you were dealing with an issue before, then it's absolutely going to exacerbate the issue. So the question, should they have known about this before the draft? Absolutely. So even if his pre-draft knee issue, this chronic tendonitis that they keep talking about, is separate from his ACL reconstruction, which I do not think it is at all, I guarantee that it contributed to his condition. He has, to put it in layman's terms, he had a bum knee. So are we surprised that he continually injures, even if the injuries are different?
That's true.
We should not be surprised. Absolutely not.
Yesterday, when I put out the tweet that Kinlaw had ACL reconstruction, Dr. Nirav Pandya, who's been on the show and is a really good doctor, and he's all over the Bay Area giving his analysis of athletes' injuries. He's the go-to guy. He wrote on Twitter, many times an ACL can appear intact, quote unquote, on an MRI. But when the ACL is examined dynamically during surgery, chronic changes in the ligament, making it unable to perform its function, can be seen. In these cases, cumulative damage to the ligament is treated by reconstruction. So I don't know if that sheds any more light on it, but
yeah, absolutely. Basically, he's saying that it's wear and tear over time. So absolutely, that's really well said on his part.
Jason Aponte put out some really nice pictures on Twitter yesterday, and I took credit for one of them. I just said it was me because it looked so good. I think a fair amount of people believed it. And then last night I went out in this sweater and like a black trench coat to try to look like him because I was so inspired. I even wore black suede shoes. I was really trying my best to look like Jason. One person came up to me and was like, "Oh my God, are you Jason Aponte? I know you from the Grant." That didn't happen, but
him and Shardar, they are the best dressed.
They are. Jason always has. He's always fitted. Very much so. Thanks for watching, Jason. Thank you for the $5.
Yeah, hey, Jason.
All right. The question is, should Deebo Samuel play? But actually, I want to ask you first, do you think he will play? And the background here is he didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice Thursday. He was limited on Friday, but Kyle Shanahan said, look, it was just a walkthrough. If it had been an actual practice, he probably wouldn't have participated in that one either. And they said this injury is worse than it was last week. Do you think he will play?
No, I don't. It's specifically because of what you said. So there are three main muscles in the calf, and without getting into too many scientific details, if one is aggravated or all of them, you're looking at a minimum of 3 days recovery if it's a minor strain. If it's any kind of severe strain, a minor sprain to the ligaments above and below, if it's a tear in the muscle, then you could be looking at anywhere, no joke, from 1 to potentially even 2 months recovery time or more. It depends on how it depends if it's non-surgical procedures.
Look what just happened to Kittle. He's got the same injury. He just sat down for a month.
Right, and that's normal. I mean, it's if you pull a calf muscle or you strain it, I mean, you're really not going to miss less than 2 weeks if it's minor. And that's like if you were weightlifting and you got really sore and you overdid it or something and you strained it. Then you're probably looking at about a week before it starts to really feel better. And you might be 2 weeks before you're full go again. And that's not necessarily contact sports. So for something like this, it could be serious. Absolutely. It depends on what they have classified it as. And I have not been able to find that.
Look, I think Deebo probably wants to play. It seems like it's in his nature. But if I were his agent, I would tell him, like, dude, you should not play in this game. Because if you sit down for 1 week, you could play the rest of the season and be great and get a huge contract. But if you push it and you tear your Achilles, it's all over, man. The dream, the money, it's gone. So be careful. And I think what happened was last week, the Niners really needed him. Like if he hadn't played against the Bears, they would have lost to the Bears.
Yeah,
and the season would be over.
Yards.
So he did a service for the 49ers, played injured, made it worse. Do they need him this week to beat a Kyler Murray-less Cardinals, assuming Kyler Murray doesn't play? I'm not sure because they're going to have Kittle back. They didn't have Kittle last week. Now they can say, look, we can lean on Kittle. We pay him a ton of money. Deebo, take a week off. We can beat Colt McCoy without you.
Here's the thing. Sherfield and Ayuk are not so bad that the Niners cannot spell Deebo for this game. So right. If Deebo was watching, the question I would want him to ask himself, do you want a Hall of Fame career or a burnout year?
Right.
And that's the thing, is it's not worth it to the 49ers. And to be honest with you, Kyle Shanahan should be babying this situation. John Lynch and Kyle should literally be saying, I don't care what your opinion is. I respect you. I love that. I love the gusto, but you're not playing. Even if you have like a cold, I don't want someone like Deebo to play because we have years, hopefully, if we can re-sign him in the future, we have years of production and yak from this guy. We don't need him for this game or for the future by playing in this game.
Right. And again, they needed him last week. They didn't have Kittle. The season was on the line, and the injury wasn't as bad. They won the game. The injury got worse. Kittle came back. Got to be really careful here. If Deebo were to play in this game and get hurt in a big win over Colt McCoy, you'd say, well, I mean, that was 100% preventable.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if Kyler Murray plays, he's not going to be 100% because he's dealing with an ankle sprain. I think it would be ludicrous, but understandable from a tactical point of view, but ludicrous if they play him. I think the Cardinals, they are in the same situation. They should also monitor Kyler Murray, and with him out, you do not need Deebo Samuel to beat them. And the other thing is, too, it's a run-first team, the 49ers. Even though we have Deebo Samuel, they don't have J.J. Watt. He's their number one run defender, and he prides himself on the tackle for a loss. He's out.
Chewy says the Niners need Deebo. It's a must-win game. I mean, they're all must-win games. The way I look at it is they can only afford to lose 3 more games this season, and 2 of those could be to the Rams. One could be to the Bengals. Like one could be in Seattle. You can't lose this game, especially if Colt McCoy is starting, and I understand don't mess around, play Debo, but you could lose Debo for the rest of the season. Don't discount that possibility that you can make this way worse. They were careful with Kittle. Maybe lean on Kittle now that he's had a month off instead of continuing to lead on Debo and then being surprised, acting surprised if something pops.
Yeah, we should not play Debo. And the other thing is this season, even if the Niners start winning, this is a tough division. This is a stacked NFC between Tampa Bay and Green Bay and Arizona and some of the other teams out there. This is not necessarily a year in which it's as clear-cut a road to the Super Bowl as when the Niners went last, where they really, to me, the only thing that stood in their way was Green Bay back then. Mm-hmm. But now there's a whole lot more than Green Bay in our conference, and you have Lamar Jackson lighting up the AFC. I don't really feel this is the 49ers year anyway, so there's no sense in risking Deebo Samuel.
Okay, final prediction. Will he play? I know I asked you already.
No,
I agree. I don't think he'll play. I mean, I think Kyle Shanahan's been preparing.
No.
I think Kyle Shanahan's been pretty much preparing. Like, look, it's worse than last week. Hey, I know he was limited today. It was walkthrough. He wouldn't have practiced if it was a real practice. I think they're pretty much saying he's not going to play. Don't be surprised when he does.
It's kind of like Kyle. He always places his cards close to the chest, but he's tipping them with his statements.
So.
He's trying to do the normal, and I love that about him. But it seems like it's over.
But again, it's most likely not going to be Kyler Murray or DeAndre Hopkins.
He has a hamstring anyway.
And Kittle's coming back, and Kittle and Debo perform quite similar functions for the passing game. All right, Next question. Can the 49ers beat the Cardinals without Elijah Mitchell? Now, Elijah Mitchell's become the new Mostert, the new Terrell Davis. He's making this offense go. He's kicking ass the last few weeks. On those perimeter runs left and right, he's tough.
He hits the hole so hard, just like Mostert.
Really fast, really decisive, great vision. But he's also really violent and tough. And kind of like Jeff Wilson Jr., he's getting his body beat up. He had a shoulder injury that caused him to miss time, and now he's got a rib injury that made him miss practices. And I don't know if he's going to play. If he does play, he may only run 9 times as opposed to 18. He had 9 against the Cardinals the last time they lost to him. Can the Niners win without, 18 carries from Elijah Mitchell?
Yes, they can, because of what they are facing. The number one thing to me that stands out, besides J.J. Watt, is not DeAndre Hopkins. And even if he plays, I think he's not full go.
Right,
so
hamstring.
Big players on both sides of the ball. They will not be as explosive on offense. I do not trust their coach to be as innovative as ours. And on the
I don't see Hopkins playing. Why would you make him play through a hamstring injury? Talk about
because
risking something getting worse.
Yeah, and then you can kiss your season goodbye if you're the Cardinals without D-Hop.
I mean, it's one thing to ask a quarterback to play through an ankle injury, like you can stand in the pocket and play, but a wide receiver to play through a hamstring, that's not smart.
To be honest with you, I would not even ask Kyler Murray to play through an ankle. The only reason that they would is because Aaron Rodgers is out. So these are must-win games right now. But at the same time, he's a tough guy, Kyler Murray, but he's not the biggest guy. He's my size, and bluntly put, this is not a person that you want being a bruiser quarterback. And right now, he's not mobile, which means he might take some hits. Yeah. I suspect they will get the ball out of the pockets more quickly if he plays. The 49ers, Fred Warner in particular, he has to be ready for that. And that doesn't favor D-Hop either. As far as gaining separation, he will not be able to run his deep routes if they're getting the ball out so quickly.
A lot of screens to Rondale Moore and Chase Edmonds, right?
So in other words, do they need DeAndre Hopkins if Kyler Murray is not at full? So that's the thing. So I think the 49ers can win without Elijah Mitchell as long as they open up their run game with different things. Now, that's where Trey Lance might be really cool to see. And maybe not turn the ball over to him, but pepper him in for some plays just to kind of open up the passing game a little bit more. If they can do that and they can pound the football, get their run. The other thing is, where's Trey Sermon? Why is he not?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not sure the Niners can beat the Cardinals without Elijah Mitchell. Let me make the case for why it's going to be tough.
Okay.
Because, look, the Niners all of a sudden have discovered a run game, and they do have really good run plays, but they're all on the perimeter. They're all D-gap.
Sermon is not for that.
No, because their best blockers are their tackles and their tight ends and their fullback. Their guards and center are moving. They can't run between the tackles, Sibla. I mean, I left,
their
right, they can't run between the tackles. Horrible. And we get on Brunskill a lot.
And the center gets run over.
Tomlinson isn't much better either. So they're all about running to the edge, which they're very good at. And Trent Williams, McGlinchey, Kittle weren't like really good guys on the edge blocking, but you need someone with speed to get out there. And if it's not Mitchell, I mean, it's not Jeff Wilson Jr. He's a between the tackles runner. It's not Trey Sermon. He's between the tackles runner. It's Hasty. And they only use Hasty right now as a third down back. I don't like that. Put him on the field for first and second down and let him run the perimeter stuff because he's got juice. He's fast.
Well, to be honest with you, I think Hasty, while he may not be Elijah Mitchell to the perimeter, to the outside, again, I think it's kind of like you lose Debo.
Yep.
And it's huge. But if you get back Kittle and Sherfield is doing decently and you have Ayuk, I think that you can almost make up for the absence of Debo by being innovative with your play calling and by just giving different wrinkles to the defense. I think with Mitchell out, the variety of running backs the 49ers can feature can at least give us 80% of what he brings.
One more thing. What you were saying, Lance, that's a brilliant suggestion. How about getting Lance on the perimeter? The last time Lance played against the Cardinals, they ran him between the tackles on power plays and counters, which is, I mean, I'm sure something he can do, but your offensive linemen can't do it. I mean, that's not where your blocking strengths are. So why don't you get him on the perimeter? He's your best option in this game. If Mitchell ain't there, Lance on the perimeter, 2021. I'm voting for it. I'm campaigning for it.
I wish we could run him between the tackles, because when you see Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, the idea of running your quarterback between the tackles seems suicidal at first. But if your guard gets his one-on-one matchup, that's all he has to do is bulldoze, move the pile, one guy. Yep. The idea is to get the linebackers one-on-one with your athletic quarterbacks, and then one juke move, and you're into the secondary.
You know what the Niners
can't
really
do that, so they have to run the perimeter.
Sorry about that. You know what the Niners really need to do? They need to spend a second-round pick on a guard. Oh, wait,
besides
they did.
Aaron Banks,
they
I guess.
Did that. They already did that. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, well.
Your rhetoric, classic Greek rhetoric right there, is to play him. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, there's a reason that they spent a second-round pick on a guard over a corner that everyone liked in Asante Samuel Jr. They were like, okay, yeah, but we need this guy. We need this guy. And
I think they were right. I love secondary. I love corners. But the 49ers, you are seeing how one-dimensional they become when they cannot own the center of the field. And Alex Mack was kind of Kyle Shanahan trying to wipe the sweat from his brow, praying, hoping that he could have the key cog in the center. And I don't think it's worked out that way. And especially with our guards, like you said, we absolutely need to strengthen the interior.
They had some dream this offseason that they were going to be running between the tackles, which is why they drafted Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, and Trey Sermon. But it ain't working out that way. Their entire run game is the perimeter, which is fine because you can run left, right. They can do it on both sides. They're much better on the left, though. And Elijah Mitchell's really freaking good. But if he doesn't play, I don't know how they're going to get to the perimeter.
But see, running up the middle opens up the pass game on the perimeter. And I would love to see a lot more one-on-one matchups with Sherfield and Deebo Samuel with, man-to-man coverage against them where they are expecting Trey Lance to run up the middle. And I think that was the dream for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, it was the dream. All right. How the 49ers will use Charles Omenihu. Apparently, he likes his name to be pronounced Omenihu, or so I've heard. We're going to have to get that confirmed. So, okay, we got that. Also, number 59, kind of interesting. He's an inside-outside player. What position is he going to play? I think he's going to be an edge guy. I think that what they're thinking here is with Kinlaw out, Armstead is now moving permanently to defensive tackle for the rest of the season. And I don't think they want Samson Ebukam starting at defensive end full-time against all teams. I mean, there are certain teams that he might match up well, but maybe they're like, maybe a big reason we couldn't stop the run against the Bears is we had a really light D end out there. So I think what they're going to do is have Omenihu start at D end and on pass rush downs, he'll probably move inside with Armstead. But I think that's how I think he's basically the new Armstead. Armstead's the new Kinlaw, which means Armstead's a new Buckner. And now Omenihu's the new Armstead. D end on first down and second down and D tackle on third.
Yeah, I've heard some really good defensive ends in their career say, I'm not a pass rush specialist. I'm a defensive end. I set the edge. I'm not one of these new wave.
That's what Armstead says. That's what Armstead says. When he got the contract, first thing he said was, my goal is to be the best run defender at the D end in the league. No, sir. No. That's not what they're paying you to do. I hated that.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think with Ebukam, what he is more of a pass rush specialist because he does not set the edge as well. And no matter how physically strong you are, the wear and tear of the game, it just comes down to sometimes you just need to occupy your space. And that's why those guys up there are so big sometimes.
He's a really
I
small
think
at the end. He's a
right. And so he's more about getting after the quarterback, being disruptive, maybe being able to drop back a little bit. But Omenahu, as he pronounces it, I think he's going to be a guy who just occupies his space a little bit more. And maybe that's like you said, maybe the 49ers said, look, Ebukam is great, but we need to use him situationally as a pass rush specialist, not a defensive end. There is a difference philosophically.
And that's what they signed him to. Like, they never signed him to be the starting DN. They always wanted it to be Armstead.
Rotational piece.
Right. They always wanted Armstead to be that starting DN and Kinlaw to start in the middle. But now that Armstead is a starting 3 technique, I don't think they were comfortable with Ebukam now just becoming a starter. They didn't do well against the run at all against the Bears. And I think they felt we're going to get trampled. This 27th ranked run defense is going to be ranked even worse if we don't make a move. So this, to me, I know he's got like some good pressure rates as a pass rusher, but he should really help the run defense on the edge early on, and then he'll be like a little bit of like a pocket pusher on third down.
I think the 49ers need to acknowledge the division they're in as well. I think Fields reminded them the horror of people like Kyler Murray. And I think that just kind of gave them the reality check. So this might be a really savvy move by the front office. We'll see how it pays out in dividends, but it does seem like a kind of an under the radar, kind of solid pickup for the Niners. It's not particularly flashy, but it addresses, as you said, a need. Because Ebukam is a guy who can become a liability in the run game if they target him. And if they're pulling the guard and they're pushing his direction, they can get to the secondary really fast through a guy like that.
And remember, Ebukam came from the Rams, who were running a 3-4 defense, and he was an outside linebacker setting the edge. That's different than being a defensive end setting the edge. I mean,
he's high motor. He's about speed. He's about being disruptive. He's not necessarily about being a lineman.
Yeah, his lack of size will be a big detriment on the D line, and that's why they're moving him out of there. They want him anyway. That's the deal with Charles Omenahu. I think he's going to start in this game. That's a good segue to the run defense, though. Is it just Ebukam? Is that the problem with it? Do they need to get a little bit bigger there? What are the issues you're seeing right now? Because they couldn't stop Khalil Herbert or Justin Fields.
Well, I think the issue is Javon Kinlaw and what we got him to do, and the fact that we did not have anyone behind him that's been able to step up. And I guess you're moving Armstead inside, but Street has not been as disruptive as I hoped. This is not necessarily like just one guy. I think it's the fact the Niners don't set the line at nose tackle, defensive tackle particularly well. I think it's really easy to punch this team in the guts. And we have an undersized but highly skilled linebacker. He's not very strong, Fred Warner. If you go one-on-one with a running back, they're going to run him over. I've never seen him knock a running back down. They always knock him down. So to me, the Niners are very soft in the center of the field. And without Kinlaw to be there, I think they are completely exposed from their lack of drafting, the lack of free agency. They put everything they had into trading Buckner. And by getting rid of him and replacing him with a bum knee, essentially, and I like Kinlaw, but that's what he has.
Yeah.
Now there's just a hole there. So that's the issue is the position not being addressed. Which is funny
what's wrong
because
with the defense is the absence of Buckner.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's like they are addressing Buckner with Omenahu. And when I say that, what I mean is that they are going stronger on the edge, but they're putting it on Armstead. I just don't like this bouncing around of Armstead. I don't like it. He's not a jack of all trades. He needs to be a master of one.
I just think it's interesting. They chose Armstead over Buckner. So now you have Armstead in Buckner's old spot. Okay, let's prove that was the right choice.
He will not be.
Yeah.
Not to say that Armstead may not have some great games there. He has skill, he has size, he's a physical specimen, but he does not have the technique and the motor of Buckner.
Yeah, make an impact like Buckner did. Because you're making about what Buckner made. So fill the void. The void is there. You can fill it. They're paying you to fill it. He's a captain, right? You're a captain. Be Buckner. Why not?
One of the things that surprises me about Kinlaw, as far as being their replacement for Buckner, is that they replaced the guy who is perennially there, physically durable, with a guy that had a knee question. Okay, the upside of Kinlaw seems really good, but it's kind of like that. It's kind of like when you play poker. How many chips are you going to throw in the pile when you're just not quite sure you have the strongest hand?
Yeah.
You should be more tepid with your draft picks, essentially. And so I think they should have made a less, I want to say less flashy because it's the first round, but they should have definitely gotten someone who would have been average. I will take average but present over injured but great.
Yes. Yes.
So I think free agency next year, the Niners have to address this because, again, the first round is not a science. There's no telling if they will be able to address that in the draft. So I think they need to make a draft picks, not in the first round, maybe the third round at the latest. And then they need to also get someone in free agency who's just solid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And healthy.
Agree. Yeah. This defense, I'm not sure. I mean, they're ranked 5th right now in yards allowed, but 22nd in points allowed. I'm not sure it's a good defense.
I'm not overly impressed with our defense.
I mean, they gave up 22 points to the Bears, who were scoring 14 a game coming in. That was
How about that run by Fields on 4th down?
That was concerning.
It wasn't just a first down for those of you who missed it. He just took it 20-some yards into the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears could run left, they could run right, they ran at Bosa, they ran at Armstead, they ran anywhere they wanted to run. And that's the worst. It was like one of the 3 worst offenses in the league, which makes you think like, well, what's Colt McCoy going to do? I mean, I don't know.
I think the 49ers are more liable against these hybrid dual threat quarterbacks. I think Fields flashed what they want to see from him. And I think that's the Achilles heel of San Francisco, are these dual threat quarterbacks. So I don't think Colt McCoy has as much upside against us.
Probably not. Yeah, probably.
He's got a great play calling voice though. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
He sounds good when he's down there. That's the best thing about him.
I really don't.
Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert has the best football voice there is.
I don't want to watch Colt McCoy or Blaine Gabbert play football ever again. I've seen it.
I understand.
I don't want to do it. It's too bad. It's cool to see Josh Johnson do his thing. Okay, anyway.
Colt McCoy, though, it just sounds like some 1970s Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, but not one in 2021, I'll tell you that. All right.
Right.
I think it's pretty clear that the 49ers are doing everything they can, Kyle Shanahan in particular, to not create a quarterback controversy. So they're like, why isn't Trey Lance being brought in when Jimmy Garoppolo struggles? They don't want to create a quarterback controversy. And so I think that you're not going to see Jimmy Garoppolo benched pretty much at all this year. I think what you're going to see is what happened against Seattle. I'm not trying to go conspiracy theory here, but if Jimmy's struggling in this game, like he struggled against Seattle, and the Niners are down 7 points, and they want to make the switch for a half to Lance, what'll happen is they'll say Jimmy's hurt. Jimmy can't play the rest of this game. And then they'll give Lance another chance to win the team over. And if he doesn't, they can say, well, we're going back to Jimmy. I think they're going to basically use the injury thing as a means to not ever make a decision. Not because, they don't want to piss off the fan base, but I think that Jimmy has the locker room. Like, Jimmy has relationships with all these players. Trey just got here. Jimmy has the locker room more than Kyle does. So I think Kyle's real scared of just pulling the plug on Jimmy, inserting a kid who may not be better than Jimmy, losing a few games, and losing the locker room entirely. I think that's why they won't bench Jimmy. If anything goes down, Jimmy, something hurts. Let us know what it is. Get back to us.
Yeah, see, I don't think Kyle Shanahan is not an alpha dog personality. To make the jump from, I guess, serviceable, I don't want to say that you can always count on Jimmy because he gets injured a lot, but just the serviceable, the locker room is into him, and go to this young gun and see what he's got. That is not in his soul, in his heart. Kyle Shanahan does not have that kind of dedication to himself and to the sport. He's more about playing it safe, I feel. So for him to make that jump, we will not see that. I think it is a mistake only because if even if we make the playoffs, this is not the prettiest year the 49ers will have. So why not get him the experience? And with all these, we're playing people like Kirkpatrick and Norman and Garoppolo, people who could or should be traded or free agents, people who may not be here in 1 to 2 years, next year. This is a really fragile organization, I feel, that's being held together by glue with a bunch of people who have no future on this team. And we're playing them over the people that we drafted. And as every fan knows, draft picks, it's awesome when they are Nick Bosa right off the bat. It's awesome when they are Patrick Mahomes straight out of the gate. That's awesome. But that is not the norm. A lot of times you have to develop these people over 1 to 3 years. So as a result, not playing them this year, it's almost like we never drafted them in the first place. And by the time we get to next year's draft class, we will have a whole new draft class. And if there's one thing I've noticed about the NFL, they like things that are shiny and new. And so if you don't get played your rookie year, unless you're a really high round pick, you get buried. Yeah. And you'll be lucky to be flushed out at the bottom of the practice squad and make some other team, like Reed, for DJ Reed. People like that sometimes get a second win, but it's so uncommon. So for them not to play Trey Lance, it's just indicative of the whole thing of not playing any of these draft picks. It's a mistake.
Well, hold on. We're going to get to that in a minute. The thing with Jimmy, you mentioned it. You got a lot of vets on 1-year deals or a couple year deals. And I think what's happening is they look at Jimmy and they say, man, look at how Kyle Shanahan is treating Jimmy Garoppolo. That's the highest paid player on the team. That's a quarterback with a overwhelmingly winning record. And they're treating him like he's anyone, the most replaceable person ever. Well, what does that say about my standing here? If they would do that to Jimmy, what do they do to me? I'm not as good as Jimmy. I don't make as much as Jimmy. I don't have as much standing as Jimmy. If he doesn't have stable footing here, then I certainly don't. And I think that Kyle is cognizant of the fact that if he just pulls the plug on Jimmy, a lot of players in his locker room will be like, whoa, what? And whether they're right or not, he's created this veteran old team. If he wanted to go with Trey, maybe do what the Jets did and have a young team. But no, you have a very old team with a lot of guys who know Jimmy and sympathize with Jimmy's stage in his career and not going to be like, yeah, get him out of here. Bring in the rookie who's proven nothing. It's like, okay, well, what if we do that at your position too? Your position
There's
too.
a lot of layers to what you just said. Let me start at the back end of what you said, and that's the difference between a veteran and a rookie personality. They say that ignorance is a bliss. And I think your young Debos and young Jacksons and people like that, they are convinced they will be Hall of Famers from the start, that they're going to win lots of Super Bowls. And there's that kind of like fire that they have for the game. Veterans are a lot more sage in their approach. Yeah. They still want Super Bowls usually, but for the most part, they're playing out their careers. And I think what you say holds some truth as to the mentality of the switch from the team's standpoint.
Right.
Now, as far as this old team that they have construed, if you remember back to when John Lynch first took over, he said he wanted to make this a destination for free agents. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Now, on one hand, I really respect that the 49ers, you can trust them as a player as far as your contract and things like that go for the most part. So you can come here and you know you're going to get your playtime, you know you're going to get your contract. And I think integrity from a contractual standpoint is part of what makes a culture for a football team. And that's awesome. But here's the thing. I don't think that it holds true. If some of these players think, oh, all of a sudden you're going to replace Jimmy with Trey Lance. No. It's not all of a sudden. It's years and years of injuries and missed opportunities and missed games. This is not a sudden change. Jimmy has been given 9 lives, essentially, to keep his job, and he has spent all of them.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's the thing, is I just think that I don't think that the mentality, if it's true, and I think it is, especially for people like George Kittle, I don't think the mentality of, oh, you're suddenly replacing him in safe. No, Jimmy Garoppolo has been given opportunity after opportunity to maintain his job, and his body has betrayed him, or his lack of work ethic, perhaps both. I mean, looking at him, he's not that physically fit. So I don't see, like, as a fan, I can see that Jimmy Garoppolo has done nothing to keep his job. And I like Jimmy. But it's a business. Get rid of him.
Yo, these people in the chat totally got me. I just want to give them some credit. Someone in the chat said the Niners signed D-Jack. I'm like, oh my God. And I started Googling it, and now they're making fun of me for Googling it. You got me. You got me. You got me.
They
My
signed
mouth
who?
was open on that one. You got me. My mouth was open. You got me. Anyway, that was
Okay, so you made one mistake in all of our sets. Shame on you. I made two so far. Just saying, for the record.
Tell the good people who watch this show why the Niners have to play the young guys, and tell Kyle and tell the old guys on this team.
If you're an old guy on this team, then you are a veteran presence. That means you care about the team, you care about its direction. Eventually, you have to pass the torch. That's all I'm going to say to you. When it comes to the coaches, when it comes to the younger players, if Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, who are definitely if they are not on the hot seat, they're on the warm seats. They are definitely embroiled in a little bit of controversy where fans and the ownership needs to see result. If you want to be here next year, John Lynch, then you have to show the fan base and the team that, hey, you know how Aaron Banks played really well at the end of the year? Yeah, I drafted him. Yeah. You know how Lenoir turned out to be our lockdown slot corner, and now we can let K'Wan Williams walk and save some money? Yeah, I drafted him. Yeah. You know how we drafted Trey Lance, and I basically sold the future for the next 3 years in the first round? Yeah, I drafted him.
You know, all that hope for the future that we displayed at the end of the season? I created that.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that we have to win the Super Bowl. It doesn't mean we have to go deep into the playoffs or even make them. But if we see that Trey Lance is, oh, yes, this is the kid. This guy is the future. Then ownership and the fan base have to objectively say, okay, we made a Super Bowl recently. We fell out the next year, bitten by the injury bug, whatever. Then the next year came along. We got hit by some injuries. But the draft picks that we got, Lenoir and Banks and Lance and people like that, Sermon, they helped at least make us competitive. And now we can see that next year there will be progress. And next year your draft will be not about filling old needs, but about patching little holes that are on the perimeter of the scope of your future. Rather than a guard, a corner, and a running back are to the 49ers. The guard and the running back is obvious, the run game. We can't run up the middle. Banks should have solved that. But Lenoir, we have no young corners. And we don't know if Verrett's going to come back or not. We have no one in the secondary. And Ward and Tart are injured all the time. Yeah. And you're not playing your top secondary draft pick. I would love to see him get torched 4 games in a row as long as he's growing. This idea of patching it with Norman is ludicrous.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, every game the Niners don't get these young guys out there is a waste. I know they're trying to win games, but I'm not sure that some of these journeyman vets who certainly won't be on the team next year give the Niners a better chance to win than some of these rookies.
The only one that I am okay with is Norman. He does get after the football. He gets some holding calls and things like that. If he's the worst corner we have, that's okay. But what's with Kirkpatrick and these Buster Screen, I guess, was that his name?
Yeah.
What's with getting these people? How does that help us next year? How does that even help us this year? I still think they're holding on to this idea that they will be in the Super Bowl and that they have to win this year. But that's out the window. Now they can make it as a wild card, perhaps 7th seed or something. Yeah. But they have to get this team going.
If they go 7-3 over the next 10 games. If they go 6-4, I'm not sure they make the wild card.
Exactly. And so why not play your draft picks?
So on that note, how do you see this game playing out? Now, we don't even know which quarterback's going to play for the Cardinals. It's a tough prediction to make on a Saturday morning, but I don't care. Tell me who's going to win the game, Sibilla, and why.
So I haven't said this a lot recently, but I will have to go with the 49ers on this. The reason for this is it was really close last time with the jitters of kind of Trey Lance in his first big game and didn't have Kittle and just a lot of people banged up and secondary issues and things like that. And while we still have secondary issues, I have some hope for Hufanga. I would love to see Lenoir out there, but regardless, I have to go with the ball control for the 49ers over a Murray-less Cardinals team, Hopkins-less, Watt-less. I just feel like the 49ers are going to be the beneficiaries of a little bit of injury on the Cardinals side.
Yeah.
And as much as I feel for J.J. Watt, we know what this feels like when we lose people like Bosa. So I just think the Niners are a little bit healthier, a little bit more diverse. And even if Jimmy Garoppolo plays the majority of the snaps, I think he owns like a 116 passer rating or something against the Cardinals in his career. So he doesn't play particularly poorly against them. And against someone like Colt McCoy, one of the things we always say about Jimmy, he's serviceable. Colt McCoy is not serviceable.
No.
I don't know how he has a job, to be honest with you.
Huh?
I don't know how he has a job.
That's exactly what we said at the same time. How, I mean, really? He's their back. That's the best you could. You just be better off drafting another guy and just having.
I don't understand how Blaine Gabbert and Colt McCoy have jobs, especially on the teams that they are playing on.
I think it shows you that the backup job in the NFL a lot of the time is kind of like a secretary for the starter, like help him get prepared, be smart in the meeting room. But like, I mean, if we play, we're screwed anyway. So I mean, I think that he's more like why is Brian Hoyer still in the league? For his brain, not for anything he does physically.
One of the things I don't know if you remember when Colt was on our team, he always had the pen and the pad. And he was always going over things with his number one QB. He knows he's like the guy in the office who always makes the coffee. He knows how to keep his job because you like him.
Yes,
but
right.
At the same time, like you said, they do serve a purpose, and that is to get the quarterback prepared. And the thing is, they're almost like a QB quality coach. They do sit on the sideline, they do watch the game, and they go over the plays, and they do give feedback for what they see.
No doubt. Okay, so you think the Niners are going to win high-scoring game, low-scoring game? What do you think?
I see the 49ers as scoring somewhere around 24 to 27 points.
Okay. Wow.
And I see the Cardinals as being competitive through the first 2 or 3 quarters, perhaps, because the Niners kind of go slow.
Wow.
I don't see I really hope the 49ers have better ball control in the first half and they run out the clock more, because the time of possession in this last game was weird in the first half. As far as I felt, the Niners should have controlled the ball more. And I think that's why we did not see the score erupt until late in the game when they finally started getting going. The 49ers have to come out and establish a slow, grueling war of attrition from the start. And if they can do that, I'm going to have to go like 24-27. So let's just say 27-21, something like that.
27-21. Okay. I'm going to say it's going to be a lower scoring game.
Like the first.
I'm not sure that Debo's going to play. I'm not sure that Elijah Mitchell's going to play. Kittle coming back will help. But that's the third-ranked defense in the league, Arizona. They won't have J.J. Watt, but they still have a lot of really good players, and I like Vance Joseph. So I think Jimmy's going to have his hands full. I could see the Niners winning this game with less than 20 points. Because if Colt McCoy is playing, I don't know. I mean, the Niners have some issues on offense.
I feel like Juszczyk scores in this game.
Okay.
Because of the absence of Deebo Samuel and the absence of J.J. Watt, those 2 players. So the explosion down the field is now gone, unless Sherfield has a great game. But because J.J. Watt will not be there to disrupt our run game, I just feel like the Niners are going to get really creative at the line of scrimmage.
17-13 Niners if Colt McCoy plays. 17-13.
Cool.
Low scoring game. Just want to see, do you think Robbie Gould make it through the whole thing? Robbie, are we going to see Mitch Wishnowsky kicking field goals by the end?
Well, as long as Robbie Gould doesn't do any more of those whiffs at midfield like he did in Detroit, then I think he should be okay.
That was funny.
I don't think they would have let Sly go and switch to him without the absolute assurity that he can kick.
You'd hope.
We hope.
You'd hope. All right, Sibilla, that's the show. We both have the Niners winning. Let's see him take care of business for the second week in a row.
That's exactly what they have to take care of business.
They need to, because again, they need to win 7 of their next 10 games. That's just the way it is.
And Aaron Rodgers is gonna watch this game, and he's going to root for us, because with him out, the Cardinals have to win this game. That's the one thing I'm going to give the Cardinals. They understand this, because they lose this game, they're going to Lambeau in the playoffs, where they will lose.
That's right. Have a great Saturday, everyone, and then enjoy the game tomorrow. I'll be there. Go do something fun. Sibilla, thank you so much for adjusting your schedule.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me back, and good to see the fans again.
Take care, everyone.